welcome to the Rural Roots Canada podcast. I'm your host, Tim Parent, joined by host Mr. Craig Lester. And Craig, we've got an event coming up on June 18th that you wanted to get right into and talk about.
Absolutely, Tim. The CDC Ag Summit taking place at the Crop Diversification Center and Medicine Hat College Brooks campus in Brooks, Alberta is coming up here really quickly on June 18th. The big theme of this event is about collaboration and networking, and I won't get too much into it. I'm going to let the person I interviewed had a great conversation with Candace Woods on that, who is involved with the event. She's going to talk in regards to the great event coming up in Brooks on June 18th.
So tell us a little bit about the event that you guys have scheduled coming up there in the County of Newell.
Yeah, so June 18th and 19th, we are hosting the CDC Newell Ag Summit. It's a 2-day event, with the first day being more of the networking, collaboration, panel discussions, dinner, followed by live music and interactive kind of fun games throughout the evening. And then the 19th is an optional day of personalized tours, and if you want a little more hands-on or one-on-one look at different parts of the facility.
Awesome. And what prompted this? What's the purpose behind putting on an event like this?
The purpose of this event was to kind of bring together all the different avenues of agriculture that we've talked to and help to facilitate those relationships. We're hoping this will lead to further collaboration, innovation of new ideas. We often meet with people who have a great idea but don't really understand the process of what it takes to bring that idea to fruition. So we're hoping that by bringing all of these people together into a room, that they can understand that there are researchers available to help get an idea off the ground, that there is funding available to bring that idea to a real world place, and that there are producers and industry out there that are willing to take that idea and test it on a larger scale.
You've talked quite a few times here already in regards to collaboration and networking, and that's the theme here. Why is that so important in agriculture?
We did create this theme pretty deliberately. We're where we are because of the networking that we've had, success we've had with collaboration with different people. Without research driving new ideas, agriculture wouldn't be innovating at the rate that it is. All of the research being done eventually needs to hit field trials, so that alone needs to come with collaboration and innovation. So we're hoping that making these new connections will spark the new innovation, and the conversations can lead to problem solving of some real world situations, and that we'll see that kind of come out through the next couple of years.
People are listening to this interview. They want to find out how they can register and any other particulars. Where do they need to go? So
the registration page is on cdcnewellagsummit.com. And that has links to the registration. It has our itinerary. It has all of the hotel information, as well as if you're interested in sponsoring the event, there's a sponsorship package page as well. And it has contact information for myself. So if you're interested or have any questions, please reach out to me directly. We're just really looking forward to hosting this event, to showcasing the CDC South. To us, this is more than just an ag summit. It is a reintroduction of CDC South to the research community in Southern Alberta. We're hoping that our attendees can walk away from this event with an appreciation of what's available at CDC South and the players available to help take an idea and turn it into action.
That's Candace Woods from the CDC Newell Ag Summit in the Crop Diversification Center South in Brooks, Alberta. Again, that event is taking place June 18th, and you can get more information, register, get your hotel room by going to CDC NewellAgSummit.com. That again, CDC NewellAgSummit.com for more information on that.
Lots of opportunities to connect with producers and ag professionals, and lots of discussions and open forums about the future of research in southern Alberta. So certainly worth your time. If you can save the date, again, Thursday, June 18th, worth your time to go check that out. And Craig, this week is Emergency Preparedness Week. I mean, when it comes to emergency preparedness, it's not really just down to 1 week. It's something that you should always be prepared for. But lots to discuss with that, and this week being Emergency Preparedness Week.
Absolutely, Tim. And so I had a great conversation with Jody Wacowich from AgSafe Alberta in regards to the measures that all producers and farmers should be thinking about year-round, and the steps that they should be taking today to prepare for events that may hopefully never happen. But if they do happen, that they can be prepared for them and to deal with them in real time when they do. And so here's my conversation with Jody.
It is Emergency Preparedness Week. What does that mean for a farmer or someone working in the agriculture industry when it comes to farm level?
I think if you take it back to the very basics, we all went to school, and at school we had to do, a fire drill. There was always that little bit of practice, and we don't take that thought forward to the farm, but we should. What would happen if we have a fire? Who's doing what? Where are they going? Where is everybody safe? And how are we going to manage that? So just some of the basics is, say you have a rainy day coming up here as you're going through seeding and you need to sit down and catch up on a few things. It's an opportunity to say, hey, if we've got a piece of equipment on fire in a field, what are we going to do? Who's going to do what? Just have that conversation as you're going through the day. But then when we start to look at animals and emergencies, I mean, we're in a pretty dry season right now. We have forest fires, grass fires, all those things happening. What's your plan to evacuate people and animals if one of those is headed towards your farm? Do you have enough equipment, trailers, trucks, that sort of thing? Is there a list of people that you have on file that you can, the phone numbers are there, because sometimes you won't always remember them in an emergency, or you're sending somebody else to do it and they don't know those numbers. So if they're easily accessible, it makes things happen a lot faster. So just having some of that planning in place.
Now, for people who live in rural areas, some people may be, but the response time is not that which you would see in an urban center. How do you factor that into your emergency preparedness plan?
Well, that's a key part, knowing that it's going to take a bit for, for example, here where I live, they're volunteers. So they have to get from their job even to the fire station and then get out here. And so knowing that that's going to take that time, what can we have happening in advance, be planning, be moving people or equipment out of the way so they have access when they get there, that sort of thing. But it also falls on the emergency side in terms of somebody getting hurt or injured, say there's an explosion or something where we now have a person who needs to get to the hospital. Ambulances are also not readily accessible, and sometimes they're not even in the service area when we need them. And so now OH&S asks that any employer has a plan as to how you will transport people to the hospital if they get hurt, just to make sure that we're getting that done too.
What most, I guess, in your line of work, what most common emergencies do farms face?
I think we're on the fire side. We're going to see, a barn fire. If something kind of goes haywire in the barn, we can see smoke, fire, all that sort of thing happening. And what do we do with the animals or the people around the buildings or that sort of thing? Grass fires, they've popped up a couple of them already this week. And what are we doing to manage or protect that? Same thing with our equipment out in the fields. You strike something, you hit something. The other big one really in the spring is power lines when we've got our equipment out and we're trying to catch that little bit of extra acreage. We have quite a few people who've contact with power lines and those come down on our equipment. And that's another emergency where we now need to involve some of the power company to help get things done as well.
One of the things, as you have mentioned to and alluded to, is talking about training. What does AgSafe Alberta offer in terms of training that people can do right from their own home in terms of helping them prepare for emergency preparedness?
So in our farm safety plan, there's a whole module on planning for emergencies so that you have some of like I said, the list of phone numbers in place, the list of land locations in place so that we can even tell emergency services how to get there, because sometimes that's not always, the owner may know all of those land locations quite easily in front of mind, but the employees might not, or younger family members, that sort of thing, or they know the names of the quarter but not necessarily the number to get somebody there. And so knowing some of that stuff, having those conversations in place, when we have a minute to kind of sit and, what would we do? How would we handle this? If somebody contact the power line in the yard, what is the plan? Who goes where? Do we get people out of the way? And in terms of training, do you have some people on the farm who have first aid? And that can be pretty important if somebody gets hurt. And, what other kinds of things would we need in terms of providing, assistance or support to the people who we're working with, and making sure that everybody's kind of getting out of the way and safely to where they need to be, so that we can put the fire out or manage the situation as necessary.
Awesome. Jody, anything you would like to add that I haven't asked you?
I think it's a great opportunity to take time to have that chat. Like I said, if it's a toolbox talk or something one morning, but the other opportunity is to sit down and do a full, a table talk where we walk through the whole scenario and everybody actively does their part to see if we're missing pieces of our plan, to see if there's something that makes sense or doesn't make sense in how we want to manage that, and just kind of gives everybody a chance to familiarize themselves with the process and what's expected.
That's Jody Wacowich from AgSafe Alberta. I think one of the biggest things we talked about in there that really jumped off the page for me is response times in rural areas is not as short as it may be in urban centers. So you have to build that into your emergency preparedness, and it's what even amplifies the importance of having that emergency plan, is that they're volunteers that are responding. They have to leave their jobs, go to the fire department or wherever they're coming from, and then make it out to your farm. So as in any plan, make sure that you're giving emergency responding teams the opportunity the time to get out there and factoring in that into your emergency plan.
Always some great advice from Jody. We've talked to her many times here at Rural Roots Canada on a number of issues, and you should always check out their website for all kinds of information and tips that you may need. One other thing to discuss this week, Craig, and that is someone celebrating 100 years in business, which is kind of it's a rare thing these days, but Pioneer is celebrating 100 years globally and more than 80 years alongside Canadian farmers. The seed brand, which is part of Corteva Agriscience, traces its roots all the way back to 1926 and the introduction of hybrid corn. And you had a chance to speak to Laura Lee Orr this week. She is with Corteva, and she talked a lot about the milestones and the longevity of the brand.
Yeah, again, it's just fascinating to hear where some of these brands come from. And one of the things I even remark on in this interview is just in regards to, I can remember back to being a kid on the farm, and two of the brands that jumped off my memories one is John Deere, and the second is that Pioneer logo on our seed bags for silage corn. And to see a company last that long, especially in this day and age, says something about the brand. And it was just a very fascinating to learn the history of what has encompassed Pioneer.
100 years. Wow. What does that mean to you?
When you think about the brands that have been around for 100 years, there's not many. There's a handful probably that come to mind. And in agriculture, we've got generational farms, and to have a generational business that reaches back into 1930s, 40s, it's just, there's a real sense of pride, I think, that comes along with having that deep of roots in Canadian agriculture.
As a farm kid, and I think back to those earliest brands I can remember as a kid, sort of thing, I think of John Deere, and I think of one of the things I think about when I think of seed is I think of that Pioneer logo on silage corn bags in my grandfather's shop, in my dad's shop, sort of thing. Like it has quite an impact in regards to farmers, and I mean, it's probably one of the most. Would you agree that it's probably one of the most recognizable logos in the Canadian market?
I think you listed the one that maybe supersedes us, and that's John Deere. But second most recognized brand in agriculture in the world. You will get people that stop you on on the on the street. If you're on a vacation and you happen to be wearing something with Pioneer, it's inevitable that someone will recognize that the trap and the logo that was created, and it's been around for such a long time. So it is very, very cool to be part of it.
Excellent. And so can you just, for those who aren't aware of what the history is, can you just take us back to 1926 and in Ontario?
1926 is when it all started with Henry A. Wallace and his dream and the corn genetics that he brought to the market, the first hybrid corn. That was in the United States. And it didn't take Canadian farmers very long to realize that they wanted the opportunity to grow this as well. So in 1936, the first hybrid corn was planted in Ontario. 10 years after that, we started Canadian seed operations in Tilbury. And from that point forward, we've got milestones each decade of expansion of our footprint, expansion into other crops. So soybeans came a little bit later into the picture, and then we got into the late 80s, early 90s, and that's when corn really got, canola, we really started our research operations and investing in development of canola for the Canadian farmer and the Canadian market. So
incredible. And you've talked a little bit about that, but if you were to talk about the innovation that Pioneer has done and helped push forward in the Canadian ag industry, how would you sum that up?
Oh gosh, I think there's a continual drive to bring new technology to market that solves problems that the farmers have, and to advance alongside of the farmers. So whether it's new trait technology that helps solve disease or insect issues, it's just improving how much we can grow on each acre that we have. We don't have more acres. And really at the root of it is, what do farmers need? Farmers have been the partners along the way, and will continue to be. We'll continue to innovate to try and meet the needs of the Canadian farmer in the future as well.
The word community is something that jumps out in agriculture a lot. In 2026 here, maybe you want to even talk a little bit about the past or thing in regards to when you've been involved with Pioneer. What community programs are you proud to partner with that help the communities that farmers live in?
We have I think the kind of the best opportunity to be engaged in communities with how Pioneer is sold to farmers. And that's through the Pioneer reps, Pioneer agencies that are part of each of the communities that they operate in. So you don't have to go too far to see rink boards and sponsorships, and just part of each one of the rural communities that they're engaged with, Pioneer has been part of. So we also engage around our Lethbridge facility. We've got a production facility there and major operations in Chatham, and have been, Chatham is in the 60s. So we've got really deep roots in that Chatham area as well. But we've got literally hundreds of Pioneer agencies across Canada that are engaged in the success of their communities every day.
Amazing. And I guess so, we've talked about the previous 100 years. Where are we headed in the next 100 years?
That's a great question. I wish I had a crystal ball that could forecast where we're going. I can tell you what I'm certain of. I'm certain that we'll continue. Farmers are the root of our success and have been the brand has been built to service their needs and their success. That will continue. We need to, whatever we're doing, it needs to be relevant to and help the farmer be more successful. And innovation will continue. I am passionate about it myself, but as I talk to the folks within Pioneer and talk to our scientists and the folks that are really at the kind of the beginning stages, they're so passionate about doing new things and bringing new things to market that are innovative. That will certainly continue. I know we've talked about crops like corn, soybeans, canola. Wheat is sold in Eastern Canada. Hybrid wheat will come to both Eastern and Western Canada. So that's it's within the next 100 years, but that is actually within the foreseeable future.
Amazing. Laura-Lee, anything you would like to add that I haven't asked you?
Thank you. Thank you to all of the folks that have been part of, customer of, the agencies that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making every day successful. We wouldn't be here without the people, and that is really, products are awesome, but the people really make the brand what it is.
That's Laura-Lee Orr from Corteva Agriscience talking about Pioneer, which is celebrating 100 years. Congratulations to Pioneer on the huge anniversary.
Yeah, definitely a shout out to Pioneer. Congratulations on 100 years in business. Quite the milestone, quite the achievement. That's it for this week's episode of the Railroads Canada podcast. On behalf of Craig Lester, I'm Tim Parent. Thanks so much for joining us.